I'm an AutoZone guy, Big D. I don't fuck around with no advanced auto parts.
What about O'Reilly's?
I do like the fact that they're like oddly Irish.
They got that catchy tune. No. O'Reilly.
It's not as good as Get in the Zone.
Auto Parts. What about USAA? Emma sings that shit when she hears it.
Listen, we're looking for sponsors, guys. It's been 9 fucking years. Somebody sponsor us, please. We'll sing any of your jingles.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, and this is the podcast for you, I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week we take a look back in time, decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, and want to choose one for yourself, please visit chatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie takes to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all the information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, if you would like to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing tonight?
Gene, before we get to tonight's movie, I wanted to say I'm so excited to be here. We often talk about how the podcast means a lot to us in our relationship and just in our lives and how listeners are involved. Tonight's a perfect example. I was talking to you before we recorded about a stressful weekend that I had and just how I just wanted to go to sleep. I just wanted to. And in those few moments talking with you and getting ready for tonight's film, my entire mood has changed. I went from angry, tense, stressed, to relaxed and excited. So I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for your patience. And thank you for being with me for this long journey going on 9 years of reviewing these old films.
You know what they say, Big D? Every night is boys' night here at Shat the Movies.
And I'm excited tonight because we get to go back to one of the films that made the podcast big. And John W. wrote in and said, please, it's long overdue. Can you go back and review the 1990 action classic, Die Hard 2? And again, he called in with his smooth voice to tell us why this movie was worth commissioning, and it was long overdue.
Hey there, Shat crew. This week, Die Hard 2, Die Harder. Really, everything you need to know is right there in the title. I was pretty excited in the mid-90s to pick this one up from the old Blockbuster. I loved the original. It was one of the first R-rated movies I ever got to see, and it was, chef's kiss. So this year I watched that one, the original, with my son, and he loved it. It held up great. It's damn near a masterpiece of an action movie. I watched Die Hard 2 today, and it is not as good. There are some cool moments. The planes exploding like they're entirely full of napalm. Guys stabbed in the head with icicles, ejecting from planes while they're sitting on the ground. The T-1000 getting lit up by McClane crawling out of his favorite thing, the air ducts, because of course, why not? Everything in this movie is just more Die Hard. It's Die Harder. It's bigger and it's flashier and it's way, way stupider. So turning all that stuff up to 11 really loses one of the big things that made Die Hard special, which it had the set pieces, the actions, the explosions, all that. But the thing that really set it apart and made it what it was the characters and those characters' relationships, which sounds really crazy to say about Die Hard, but it is what it is, right? There's no Al in this one other than the actual Al, who's there for 3 minutes. And it's some of the best 3 minutes of the movie because of their chemistry. There's no Argyle. Even Ellis is a guy that he's a great character. You love to hate him in the first one, and he gets whacked, and you're like, that sucks, but yeah, the side characters in this one are, there's like a janitor. I watched it this morning. I don't know who they are. There's the janitor and the air traffic control tech guy who's cool, and the other air traffic control guy who's also pretty cool. But it's like, they're whatever. And then that's not even including the most important one. You go from Hans Gruber to Colonel Naked Karate Guy. I don't know what his name was, but come on. Anyway, Die Harder is 2.75 from me. Worse than your average 80s action movie. Honestly, if it wasn't the sequel to Die Hard, I doubt anyone would even remember this movie. It's worse than the original in every way. It's not terrible, but it's just not that good.
John, first of all, I think you're being a little bit hard on your own pick. I think you're thinking about it a little bit too much. And you got to know, we're doing Die Hard with a vengeance as well. So there is still room to fall off from this one. But I appreciate this being your second commission now for 2025. Again, miss you a whole bunch. And I got to agree that with most of your points, and again, for the listeners, I've said this before on podcasts, my review of this film was decided before I heard John's voicemail. And so I'm so glad that we're on the same page on a few of these points. Die Hard 2, Die Harder is a 1990 action thriller starring Bruce Willis as John McClane alongside Bonnie Bedelia, William Sadler, Art Evans, William Atherton, Franco Nero, Dennis Franz, Fred Thompson, John Amos, and Reginald VelJohnson. As with its predecessor, Die Hard, the action in Die Hard 2 takes place on Christmas Eve. John McClane is waiting for his wife to land at Washington Dulles International Airport when terrorists take over the air traffic control system. The film was released to generally positive reviews, with critics praising the film's action and tone while criticizing elements of the plot. We will get to that. Die Hard 2 was a major box office success, grossing $240 million of 1990 money and doubling the earnings of its predecessor, finishing as the year's seventh highest grossing film. This film was followed by Die Hard with a Vengeance in 1995, Live Free or Die Hard in 2007, and of course, A Good Day to Die Hard in 2013. So Big D, as a part of this podcast, we always ask what your memories are of the film. This week, it is Die Hard 2, Die Harder. What do you remember?
Surprisingly, I don't remember where I was when this came out or when I first watched it. It always seems like it was there. It's like a lot of these movies. You don't remember the first. You just don't remember a time before it. I don't remember being like, oh, there's going to be a sequel to Die Hard. I can't wait to go see that. So in my mind, I have to believe I saw part one and part two fairly close together, because Bruce Willis was a huge part of action at that time. It was nice to see an average guy. They always call him like the everyman. I don't know if he really is that like working class hero, but we made that transition from the late 80s, the Schwarzeneggers, the Stallones, the big beefcake superhero, to the John McClane. It was iconic. He looked like one of your friend's dad who might have been a cop or a fireman. So I don't remember the first time, but this many years later, it still excites me to go back and watch these films, not just for remembering the fun times watching them as a kid, but even now, man, they're kind of bumming me out here with some of these past reviews and people doubting these films. Man, no, this is a good time, man. This is why you go to the movies in the 80s and the 90s and even today to go back and watch these. This is a great film.
If you made a graph of how many times I've seen each of the Die Hard movies, it would drop off precipitously after Die Hard. Die Hard, I've seen dozens of times. Die Hard 2, I think I've seen once, maybe twice. I've never seen Die Hard with a Vengeance or Live Free or Die Hard or A Good Day to Die Hard. Sadly, though, it's been so long. I was 10 years old when I first saw this. All I remember from Die Hard 2, Die Harder, was John McClane ejecting out of that cargo ship. That was about it. Doing the oh shit, flying out of the fireball. And I can piece together the plot only because of the Guys Night theme song where they tell me what happened in Die Hard 2.
See, I'm the other way. I've probably watched 3 the most. I watched 3 in Manhattan from a theater that was right across one of the railway stations that they run down. So it was cool to watch. I saw it in the summer with my girlfriend at the time, to walk out of the theater and almost walk into the set. So I've had some kind of an emotional tie. Really enjoy that one. So I'm excited for next week. But this one, I think of snow. I think of Christmas. We always debate, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? This one leaned heavily into it. This was festive. This was snowy. This was Christmas travel. This is what I think of where a holiday Die Hard film should be.
For those of you like me who still haven't taken down your Christmas tree, let's hit the trailer.
Listen, honey, when you land, can we check into a hotel or leave the kids with your parents? Order some room service?
You're on, Lieutenant.
I'll see you in about a half an hour, honey.
Jingle bell rock.
Christmas Eve.
Is there a cop on duty around here?
Airport police.
Go get him.
Jingle bells swing and jingle bells ring.
Washington, D.C. International Airport.
What's this about?
Oh, just a feeling I have.
Ouch. When you get those feelings, insurance companies start to go bankrupt.
The towers lost control.
Instrument landing system is down.
Backup systems won't come up. We've got blizzard conditions. Zero visibility.
Attention all controllers. We have a code red alert.
There's panic in the air.
This is a professional mercenary. You got the world's biggest drug dealer on his way here now. What do you need, a slide rule to figure this out? You get the hell out of my office before I throw you out of my damn airport.
And terror on the ground.
Who is this?
Who I am is unimportant. What I want is very important. Oh, we are just up to our neck in terrorists again, John.
But for police officer John McClane,
Shit, when I'm right.
it's just another Christmas.
You're the wrong guy in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Story of my life.
Slaughter cells maybe 2 hours. After that, those planes low on fuel aren't going to be circling. They're going to be dropping on the White House lawn.
Any attempt to restore your systems will be met by severe penalties.
Somebody out there.
It's McClane.
Wife's plane, they're going to run out of fuel in 90 minutes.
What are you gonna do? Whatever I can.
Last time, it blew you through the back wall of the theater.
Got a cowboy ride too rough?
I don't like to fly.
What are you doing here?
I don't like to lose either.
This time, it'll blow you sky high.
Is what you expected?
No. This is just the beginning.
On July 4th, Die Harder. Bruce Willis, Die Hard 2.
LAPD Lieutenant John McClane arrives at Dulles International Airport to pick up his wife Holly, while a plane carrying corrupt foreign military leader General Ramon Esperanza is headed to the same airport. Waiting to meet Esperanza's plane is disgraced former Colonel William Stewart and a group of ex-military sympathizers. McClane follows 2 of Stewart's men into a restricted baggage area where a gunfight ensues. He kills one man, but the other escapes. With the help of his friend, Sergeant Al Powell, McClane discovers that the dead man's fingerprints correspond to an American soldier who was listed as having died in a helicopter accident 2 years earlier. McClane reports his concerns to the ill-tempered airport police chief, Carmine Lorenzo, and air traffic control director, Ed Trudeau, but neither believes him.
So for our younger listeners, I'm going to take you back to the time of the late 80s and 90s. Bruce Willis was a TV star. He was on something called Moonlighting. It was like a romantic comedy. He was a funny detective, I believe. So nobody thought Die Hard was going to be this big action hit. He was not a believable action star. People were like, no, there's no way this will work. It works. How do you follow that film up? That had to have been one of the hardest things you can do. And this film does it in a smart way. Die Hard 2, it doesn't waste time. It doesn't tell us, hey, where have the characters been? What's happened? It just fucking jumps right into it. You get the Fox logo. It's the sound of like the jail cell doors slamming shut. It's like, doosh, doosh, Die Hard 2. Immediately, it is a snowy airport entrance. McClane's car is hooked up, is already being towed. The tone is set. McClane is back. It is Christmas. We don't know about the year what happened. It doesn't matter. You know the dude's not going to catch a break. It's Christmas Eve. His car's getting towed. People are talking shit to him. It's chaos. There's a sense of urgency. We're a few minutes in, and you know this is Die Harder. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be faster. It's going to be louder. It's going to be dumber than the original. It hooks you immediately. People sitting in the theater that night must have been like, fuck yes, I am ready for this ride.
Dumber than the original, yes. Die Harder, yes. But a lot of thought went into this movie. Let me make my case, okay? Sequels in the 80s and 90s, Big D, if you recall, they were quick money grabs and nothing more. They didn't have, all they knew is that the studio said, fuck, that movie kicked ass, a lot of butts in seats, do another one. And case in point, Rambo First Blood, okay?
Mm-hmm.
People don't remember. We all had the Rambo lunchbox. We watched the Rambo cartoon. Rambo First Blood, it's this dark movie where a guy that was chewed up and used by the American war machine in a war that we shouldn't have been fighting comes back home and he's pushed aside by the very country that sent him to war, and he suffers a mental break and he decides to fuck up some cops. And people loved it. And then the studio's like, great, but we need it bigger and dumber. Let's send Rambo back to Vietnam and have him get revenge for America. Let's fight Vietnam again, but this time we're going to win. And then there's the toys and a cartoon, and we're all just cheering on America blowing shit up. If you remember the Rambo 2 like poster with the big fucking rocket launcher and the flames behind him and just Sylvester Stallone's muscles, right? Nobody asked for that movie to be made, but the studio decided we need some money. Die Hard, it's not that, okay? The studio did an incredible job in this 2-year turnaround between 88 and 90. It's like they listened in our living rooms, you know, in our cars, and said, what do people love about Die Hard? And they gave us more of that. It was more one-liners, more Christmas spirit. As you said, Big D, they dive right into that, right? More Al Powell. And they miraculously did all of that in such a quick turnaround. This is a great example of paying attention to what the audience wants, not force feeding them what you think they want.
Yeah, I think a lot of times studios, they have a tendency to think they're smarter than the audience. They're going to try to find insight into why did people like it? Why was it a hit? That Rambo switch up, you're talking about it's a completely different movie. The man looks different. In the first Rambo, in First Blood, he is a drifter. He is this skinny dude. He comes back looking oiled and juiced up like fighting in Thailand. It's a completely different character, completely different look of film.
Now, in the studio's defense, he was locked up. There's not a lot to do for John Rambo other than lift weights and get oily.
Right, but it's a different tone of a film. Imagine if they did a Saving Private Ryan Part 2 and Matt Damon somehow like came back, juiced up, oiled up, and he's like, I'm going to get those Nazis. And he went hunting Nazis in Brazil or Argentina. That would be a wild change. You'd be like, what just happened? This was a thought-provoking movie against war and to support of the troops. This isn't the same Matt Damon.
I'm calling it right now. The theme of this episode is getting oiled up because I want to talk about the main antagonist in this movie.
Oh,
John brought him up, okay? Colonel Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
This is our replacement for Hans Gruber, okay? Yeah, he's fairly intense. He's doing his katas and his undies. He's pulling guns on his own dudes and pulling the trigger. But he's not Hans Gruber. It is hard to fill the Alan Rickman-shaped hole in Die Hard 2. It's lost something, right? Hans Gruber, it cannot be overstated what a special villain he was, and Die Hard 2 suffers without him. And you can tell they knew that because they tried to replace him with like 3 bad guys, right? To compensate for the loss of Gruber. They even threw in, as John mentioned, Robert Patrick as a henchman. But it's Alan Rickman, guys. Like, you can't replace him. And the movie did lose a little bit there.
Gene, what was it we used to call the oops, like when we got caught? When we were doing like Westworld, when you got caught making a mistake. Actually. Shit. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Gene. Thank you. Gene, we used to have when we would do television, we had the actually, where people would write in and catch us making mistakes. I hate to do that for you here, and maybe it's because I'm more attuned to the naked ripped men, because you remember earlier I told you, if somebody knows a man's man, I've attached a couple screenshots, and he was not in his underwear. If you look at those attached screenshots, he is clearly completely nude.
Oh, that's right.
You can actually see in the mirror shot cock and balls. There was no merkin. There was no underwear. This man who's looking great, he's a little older, probably maybe late 40s, early 50s at this point. He is looking ripped. He is looking dedicated. And he's a different kind of villain. Yes, Hans Gruber is great. And I think they go the right direction in part 3 when you get Jeremy Irons to come back and play Gruber's brother and that whole another quality
Spoiler alert.
Here they're going a different route. You're seeing him naked. He's disciplined. He's ruthless. He is dedicated to the mission, and he's a different kind of villain. He's not out there for personal revenge. He's out there to prove a point. He's not as charismatic as the Grubers, but he is a different kind of villain that's scary. If you think back to The Rock, right? We had General Francis Xavier Hummel. That pussy backed out. When it came time to double down and VX gas San Francisco, he backed out and couldn't do it. The second here, when we get Colonel Stewart willing to kill a plane load, a 747 filled with the British and some American like civilians, you know he's a different kind of villain in a good way.
Social justice warrior point of order there. When Big D says pussies, he's talking about cats, not vaginas.
When he went half measure, when he would not... When he chose to, when he wouldn't go through with his threats, okay? When he didn't go through with his threats. And also, Gene, it's not a derogatory term. I think vaginas are very strong. They're very resilient, and without them, none of us would be here. So I say that with all love and respect. But McClane, part 2, is he coming back a more disciplined? Did he learn anything from Nakatomi Plaza? I don't know that he did. People are giving him credit. He's got some fame. But his gut instincts, which is what McClane is known for, it's what he's based his career on, it's his greatest strength, but it is also his biggest curse. In this movie, he's sitting at the airport, he's talking to his wife, it's holiday time. He sees one group of passengers sitting in a bar in a full airport drinking a one little subtle like push of a Christmas package under a table. That could have been an accident. It could have been a mistake. And he dives headfirst into life and death conspiracy. He figures something's going on. He's forcing his way into secure areas. He's showing his badge. And I'm sure it's worked now twice, at least we've seen. The hijacking at the airport and Nakatomi Plaza. But I have to wonder, how many times in his normal life, when he's out with Holly, he's out with the family, does he see like someone like checking their pockets and going back to a car? Does he think, oh my God, there's a car bomb, I've got to get over there? Does he inject himself into people's lives? Because you can only cry wolf so many times before he gets into trouble. This is not something that he's just done once or twice, Gene, right?
Well, I think after you've survived something like Nakatomi Plaza, you might be a little paranoid after that, right? You know, going through life, just thinking everything's going to be hunky-dory. I have no problem with McClane having these terrific gut instincts. Let's say he has a supernatural ability, right? That's fine.
Uh-huh.
But here's the diehard paradox, is that in order for this one cop, John McClane, to be really good, every other cop has to be absolutely shit, right? They're so bad at their jobs. Carmine, his job is airport security. That is it. They've hired him at Washington Dulles Airport. Okay, so you got to imagine senators, congressmen, people are flying in and out of this thing, and he's just this donut munching do nothing. Him and his brother just chilling out, right? And then let's say he's not that great. You've got a SWAT team, the SWAT team that responds to incidents at Washington Dulles Airport. Tactically idiotic. They're let's walk straight down the escalator here. Even the military in this movie, the guys that aren't on the take, they suck at their job. The only qualification, it seems, to be like special forces or SWAT or anything in this movie, you got to have a rifle. Any of the guys with a rifle and no insignia on their uniforms, they're supposed to be the badasses. And case in point, okay, John McClane is a police lieutenant in Los Angeles. His only real combat, if you can even call it that experience, is Nakatomi. There is no way, and Big D, you can speak to this, a police lieutenant armed with a handgun should be taking out an entire army unit in a firefight.
No, and I told you, I've mentioned this before, that was one of the most disappointing things that I learned. I went into the military expecting people to be highly proficient. I expected everyone to be skilled and to want to strive to become better at their job, and whether it was tactically, proficiencies. I thought people would be into it. And I said, Fort Campbell, 101st, you gotta be. And when I saw the clowns that were there, I became disappointed. And that was why I wanted to do more, because I wanted to be around quality people, so I didn't get killed by my fellow soldiers.
Wait, so you're saying that the airborne were clowns, or just the general infantry?
I'm talking throughout the ranks.
Oh, Jesus.
You have a general clown element to where you had to measure, am I afraid of, you look at the whole Pat Tillman situation.
Yeah.
It can happen to even like Ranger battalions where friendly fire. And if you just mix in there a couple incompetent guys, it's possible. And this is I've learned from Vanessa, the police that serve in airports are generally the ones who are in some kind of trouble with their police department. It's a non-desirable appointment. So Orlando has the guys who are either on like administrative break to where they'll go ride the bicycles around the terminals, and they're usually nice guys, but they're not the best cops. So McClane, he's at an airport. I'm sure this isn't the elite. He's not dealing with like actual people investigating crimes, some other officers, and he's used to shitty, other cops. So it's not hard for him to think he knows everything, and maybe we should trust him. But if you're looking from the outside, he is a wild man with wild ideas. He must be tackling people in the street every day, assuming they're plotting some terrorist. What did McClane do on September 11th? We need to know that. That man must have been out tackling people in the street.
No, if John McClane were real, 9/11 never would have happened.
He would have seen the outline of like a box cutter. He would have been in Logan, and he would have taken down that one plane, and he would have pulled it over next to the other planes and would have jumped from wing to wing. Yeah, it would have been a different situation.
Well, Stewart and his men cut all communications with incoming airplanes, disable all runway lighting, and demand that Esperanza's plane be allowed to land without interference. Under his direction, Trudeau orders all air traffic controllers to have all planes in Dulles airspace hold in the air despite low fuel. McClane enlists the help of airport janitor Marvin to fight back, and Chief Airport Engineer Leslie Barnes decides to try using an unfinished antenna array to communicate with the stranded airplanes. Lorenzo sends an airport SWAT team with him, but Stewart's men kill the officers and destroy the antenna. McClane saves Barnes and kills Stewart's men, so Stewart crashes a British airliner, killing everyone on board by faking the airplane's altimeter reading.
So it's strange to think, like we're just talking about September 11th. It's 23 years ago. You got a lot of adults now, voting age, who weren't even born when it happened. So if you're talking and we're watching this movie, it is like a time capsule for us old people who remember the before and the after. 9/11 air travel before September 11th was very different. This movie encapsulates it perfectly. Even like Home Alone, I recently watched. The fact that you're letting these people run through security, they're getting on a plane, nobody's checking boarding passes. It was a freewheeling, crazy situation. The gates, security wasn't that tight. You've got an old lady on the plane just like casually pulling out a taser mid-flight. If you watch it now, it's surreal. It's a completely different era. It's a little bit jarring, but it's also how chaotic the airport is, and it makes the movie possible for what's going to happen. Today, it would be hard to believe that this could happen. Back then, it could happen. It reminds us, just frankly, how like air traffic was unregulated, and a lot of people today would watch this and find it like hard to believe, but this was the way air travel was. You could just go up to the gate to meet your friends coming in on a plane. How was that okay? But it made the movie possible.
Okay, it was fucking awesome.
Yeah, balloons.
I'm going to play the libertarian here, okay? Yeah. On Christmas Eve, this last Christmas Eve, there was a shooting in Phoenix Sky Harbor Terminal 4. That's my local airport, okay? It was outside the TSA secured area at a restaurant. And by the way, folks, traveling tip from Gene here. If you are flying and you're at the airport like super, super fucking early, or you're waiting for somebody, eat at the restaurant that's not past the TSA. It's always the better restaurant and the prices are way lower. Just point from me to you. Anyway, restaurant at the airport, the gunman gets stabbed. Police investigate it. Turns out family dispute. Must have been like, they might have just been really pissed at the fucking Buffalo Wild Wings or whatever. Same day, another guy shows up at the airport with guns because he had heard that there was an active shooter situation at the airport and he showed up to help. Okay.
Oh, God.
These things are going to, we live in a country with guns. Now, Big D, you and I both gun owners. You and I both think the AR-15 is an incredible platform. It's a joy to shoot. You and I are not anti-gun by any means. All I'm going to say is, if we have a society in which firearms are easy to get, shit like this will happen. And I am glad that nobody was killed. But the public reaction, Big D, and I am that old where I read the newspaper and I read the letters to the editor, and also I'm on social media. This was a summary of the reaction, right? Oh my God, how did guns get into the airport? We need to check for weapons at every entrance into the airport. People, like, where does it end? Okay. Are we going to check every car that comes into the departures or arrivals for bombs? Like, do you know what level of security that would be to check every single person coming into every entrance or exit of an airport? And like, where does it end? Do we follow people home to make sure they don't get shot at home? And to be clear, I'm not advocating for zero security, but like, we can't prevent everything, guys. Like, shit will happen.
Gene, people are stupid. Don't fucking listen to people. Don't listen to shit. I remember September 11th, right after it happened. I was at Fort Campbell, right, Tennessee. So I got into Nashville when the planes started flying again. I'm standing there at TSA. The guy in front of me was some kind of tradesman. He's got a duffel bag filled with giant ball peen hammers, like sharp-ass trowels, all kinds of construction. He got pissed at TSA. Why can't I bring this through? And the TSA agent was like, did you see last week what happened with a box cutter? People are full of shit. Oh, we have to check everything. How is that going to work, Gene? You're going to check people everywhere. Then people are going to say, why are you frisking me? This is a free country. People say this shit just to get caught in a loop of outrage. It's crazy. Guns are out there. You can't stop them. You and I carry, so we're part of the group. You just hope that more people are like us and reasonable and less like my mother who got a conceal permit. That woman should not be concealing a handgun, but she is. My mother is more likely to shoot herself in the leg like Plexico Burress or shoot somebody at a Buffalo Wild Wings by mistake as she's reaching for her insulin in her purse.
There was a guy that visited a school recently here in Arizona, and he went to the school library, had to take a shit. So he went into the bathroom, removed his concealed carry weapon, put it on the little toilet paper roll holder, took a shit, got up, washed his hands, and left. A kid found the fucking gun. Thankfully, the kid was smart enough to go to the librarian and be like, excuse me, I found this in the bathroom. Yeah, people are fucking stupid. And Big D, I know you recently took your family shooting and made a beautiful video of it. I did the same thing with my niece. She had just bought a house. She's 25 years old. She wanted a handgun for home security. And we went to the range. We set her up with the 22 subsonic rounds just to give her a taste of what shooting was like before she had anything big. And she had a little bit of a panic attack at the range, which is it's totally fine. Okay. Everyone there was understanding. She was quick to identify, like very mature about it. Hey, I'm not doing well. I'm freaking out a little bit. Set the gun down as we told her to, stepped away from the firing line, went and sat in the car. Afterward, my sister, she messages Sarah, who is a self-defense expert, and says, okay, so the kid's not going to do well with a gun. What should we get her? And the options were a stun gun, not a taser, mind you, a stun gun like we saw in Die Hard 2, or stun gun with pepper spray attached. I don't even know what the fuck that looks like, but those two things exist. Big D, would you feel safe with your wife or daughter using either a stun gun or a stun gun with pepper spray attached to defend themselves?
Okay, so I'm not going to talk about Vanessa or Emma right now because I haven't put them in a situation, but your niece, neither. Yeah. She'd be better off with a membership in like Krav Maga. You need to be in a situation where she can deal with her stress. The fact that she was panicking, that's an issue. Any weapon will be more likely used against her. What I did with my sister, so it's my very liberal sister, my Boston progressive sister, and her 2 college-age sons, my nephews. None of them have held a firearm. None of them have shot a firearm before. We shot my Mossberg, my 12 gauge, and then we ran through probably 300-400 rounds of 5.56. What I did before we shot was I did a very clinical and a very methodical breakdown. I wanted to demystify the firearm, Gene. So I sat down and broke down the AR-15 into its major components and explained how does it work? What does a lower do? What does an upper do? What is a bolt carrier group? How does the gas tube, how does it work? How does the gun cycle through bullets? Well, how do you handle a jam? How do you put the weapon in safe? What are misfires? What's the proper procedure? So when they finally got to the range, they were good to go. They were calm. We had a couple jams because I had a magazine where the spring wasn't strong enough and it jammed. They immediately did remedial action. They knew what to do. They knew how to handle it. And for people who had shot for their first time, it was the key to having them enjoy it is to not be afraid and know what you're doing.
We need to take this episode and post it on Twitter, in particular, X, and also on Facebook, and say, everyone who got rid of us because we're libs, come back to Shat the Movies because we talk about guns and how much we love them. Yeah.
Yes, come back. I think if any movie could do it, it's Die Hard.
Scott in Friendswood, Texas, and Tommy C right now are just getting boners listening to this.
That's what I want to hear. That's what I like to hear. This movie, we talk about how important it was to get you started right back into the Die Hard mood. You jump back in with that opening. You knew where John McClane was. You knew it was the same character. It didn't matter what he had gone through. And the movie walks that fine line. People always now talk about, fan service. Oh, they're doing this just for the fans. Is that a bad thing to make your audience happy? You can do it too much, but you can also do it too little and not honor what's come before it. And Die Hard leans into that connection of the first film. They do a lot of clever callbacks, but it's smart enough where it doesn't always work the same way. It's not done with the same type of character. For instance, yes, we get McClane back in the air ducts. Yes, he's muttering shit like, oh, this is just my luck, It's a fun nod to Nakatomi and everything before, but there's a scene where they're fighting underneath some scaffolding. And you see the thick wood boards, the bad guy's up on top. And I'm like, oh, shit, this is the wood, like the conference table. He's going to shoot the guy. McClane tries to shoot it, but it doesn't work. So they're nodding to the first movie, but it's completely different outcome. And it's a formula that worked. So why not embrace it? They do it again. They do just enough fresh content that it subverts your expectation, but yet it honors the original film in a way that doesn't feel like a lazy rehash. And I'm fucking in there for it. Fan service or not. Every time he gave us a holler back, I was like, yes, John.
And it's so necessary. It would be so easy to watch this movie and go, oh, the same guy in the same situation on the same holiday, get real. Like 24, right? Oh man, Jack Bauer's having another really, really bad day. But they're smart about it. In Die Hard 2, John McClane, he says, oh man, I can't fucking believe this. Another basement, another elevator. How can the same shit happen to the same guy twice? So the movie, it's self-aware. And suddenly, we're not judging it. We're feeling like we're a part of something. We're the Die Hard people. We love Die Hard. Yes. And I'm not just okay with watching the same thing in a different place. I'm actually actively rooting for the same thing in a different place because I loved it the first time. I want more of it. You're feeding my fat American face. Give it to me.
Oh, I totally agree with you. It's great. And the one thing they didn't go, we got only a couple minutes of Alan with his Twinkies. I'm like, all right, that's fine. That's good. Argyle You did not bring him back. That was a nice one to let go. They didn't lean into all of it, but they did bring back Argyle later. You mentioned all of them when I guess Bruce was starting to have some financial problems or whatever it was. In 2020, he did a 2-minute commercial for Advanced Auto Parts. Do you remember those? Where they're like, the Die Hard story continues. And they did call Die Hard is Back. Argyle's in that. He now runs his own limo company and he appeared back. But they gave nods to the original and they didn't bring back. There's only like 3 characters that have been in 2 or more films. We didn't need Argyle or any of those again.
I'm an AutoZone guy, Big D. I don't fuck around with no Advanced Auto Parts.
What about O'Reilly's?
I do like the fact that they're like oddly Irish.
They got that catchy tune. No. O'Reilly.
It's not as good as Get in the Zone.
Auto Parts. What about USAA? Emma sings that shit when she hears it. She knows.
Listen, we're looking for sponsors, guys. It's been 9 fucking years. Somebody sponsor us, please. We'll sing any of your jingles. Esperanza's plane lands and McClane wounds Esperanza before Stewart and his men arrive. They blow up the plane and take Esperanza to their base of operations in a church, but McClane survives the explosion. A blue light team arrives, led by Major Grant, whose men attack the church. McClane kills one of Stewart's men and chases the escaping mercenaries on a snowmobile. Confused as to how he failed to wound anyone, McClane realizes his gun was filled with blanks, meaning the earlier firefight was staged and Grant's team is secretly in cahoots with Stewart. Let's talk about these blanks. I don't think McClane needed to discover the blanks to understand the firefight at the church was fake. No military expert here, Big D, but I think the first indication that something was awry is that this elite army unit, this blue light team, okay, they failed to form a fucking perimeter around this building, this church that they were laying siege to, okay? Anyway, forget about that. McClane grabs a submachine gun, notices it's full of blanks, and he goes back to the police station. He's like, guys, they're in cahoots, blah, blah, blah. And Carmine doesn't believe him. So what does he do? He points the weapon at Carmine and empties the entire magazine. Dude, talk about firearm safety here, okay, Big D? What if it was only half blanks? If I were Carmine and this guy I don't know pointed a submachine gun at me, unloaded an entire magazine, I would have fucking shot McClane on the spot.
Gene, let's take a bigger picture, right? Dulles has had a bad day. There's already been a 747 that's exploded. You've already had like 2 people shot in the baggage handling area. You've had guns everywhere. You've had explosions of the communication towers. You've had a whole band of like your SWAT team assassinated. This would be the day that people would be on edge. He not only does this, Gene, you're talking about Carmine shooting him. What about the 40 other officers who were sitting there pointing at McClane? They patiently wait for him to run through that entire magazine before they're like, oh, I got your point, John. Wow. But you're right. What if one round had been loaded incorrectly? One of the knuckleheads, the fucking mercenaries, had somehow put one live round at the bottom of the blue tape magazines. That shit could have been different. And people don't know out there who, if you've never been in the military, or I don't know, Gene, if you've ever fired blanks, they're still fucking dangerous. When we would do miles gear training, to where you have the laser like contraption on your weapons and the sensors on your miles gear, it's like military, whatever, integrated laser. So basically, when you fire your weapon, the action
recoil.
of fire, the recoil on your weapon sets off a laser. But to make sure nobody gets shot with any kind of projectile, you have a blank adapter at the end of your barrel. It screws in so nothing can come out. You know, I know this is cosplay, and McClane is pretty confident, but after everything that's been going on in this airport, I don't think you'd be wanting to play around with discharging that weapon. You could have said, hey, look, it's full of blanks. That would have done the same thing. But Gene, here's a better question. To go back to the plot, when you're making your plan, when you've got Stewart and you've got Esperanza and you're making your plan, what situation were they talking about where they said, okay, if somebody comes out and catches us, we're going to pretend like we're the bad guys. And it makes no sense. It would have been easier to just turn around. You put one bullet in McClane, one bullet in Barnes, one bullet in, who was the other guy who was helping him, and the 2 cops. It's over. Why the whole charade? If it gets to that point, Gene, your plans were shit from the beginning. But McClane, his greatest superpower, besides his Sherlock Holmes level power of observation and seeing what people's intents are, is his ability to use anything as a weapon. Now, I don't know if in the first movie, I don't remember that I know he strapped the bomb to like the chair and one of the terrorists and pushed him down the elevator shaft and the fire hose. But what else did he do?
I mean, he shot through his own body to kill a dude.
Right, but he didn't like pick up. He wasn't MacGyvering shit, right?
No.
Here, he turns into MacGyver. Everything is a deadly weapon to McClane, even though he's carrying a firearm. He takes an icicle. A dude's got him pinned down with a knife. He's going to stab him. He gets an icicle right in the eye. He takes an aerosol can that he steals from the conveyor belt of the baggage handling, sprays a dude. He then continues up the conveyor belt and uses the human skull to get squished between the baggage handling machine. McClane is so much fun to watch. He is scrappy. He's resourceful. He's thinking on his feet. He is an unstoppable action hero, and he adapts to the chaos. I didn't know he finds a bicycle and he fucking like just rams one of the bad guys. This man cannot be stopped. He is an overpowered superhero. He doesn't even need firearms.
Maybe this was just a thing in 1990, because if you remember, what else came out in this Christmas season? Fucking
Home Alone?
Home Alone, yeah.
So he is the Kevin McAllister.
They were 1990 was just like the year of improvised weapons. That's what was going on. And I think the best example of this is when Colonel Stewart and his men, they've got John McClane surrounded in this airplane. He is all by himself. He's got no help. He's in the cockpit of the plane and they're fucking shooting their guns in there or whatever. And they're like, all right, we're going to make sure this motherfucker's dead. We're going to throw some grenades into the cockpit where he is hiding. Okay. To me or you, this is a dead end. To me or you, this is where we get blown up. But no, these guys, they don't bother to cook the grenades. So these babies, they land next to him. He's looking around these grenades. He's like, huh? 1 second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds go by. These things have not gone off yet. Does McClane just throw them back out? What a normal person would do? No. He jumps into the ejection seat of this C-123 and ejection seat blasts his way to safety. Now, this is a dumb plan. Dumber than throwing the grenades out. And also, a C-123 does not have ejection seats. But Big D, who cares? Who cares? At this point in the movie, I am 100% America fuck yeah. It is fun. I want to see John McClane blast out. I want to see that camera overhead view. Oh, shit. That's Die Hard 2. That's why it's great.
But Gene, I got to call bullshit on something else that you didn't even think of. Have you ever watched like the Dr. Pepper tuition giveaway? Stick with me.
I thought what you were going to say was, have you ever thrown a grenade? I was going to say no, but also no.
No, okay, I'm going to round that way. Okay, so Dr. Pepper each year, it's like the college football bowl series. It used to be in one of the bowl championship games. They pull out 2 college, like sophomore freshmen, and you got to throw footballs into the target. Whoever gets the most, you win fucking free college tuition.
Right.
That's pressure. These terrorists are standing there, right? And they say, how many grenades we got? We got 9. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to count them right away. These fucking dudes sink 6 straight grenades like Larry Bird in the fucking 3-point. I got this. All of them. It's like, ba-dink, grenade, ba-dink, grenade, ba-dink, grenade. Like 30, 40 seconds. These dudes are fucking money. At least one of those grenades would have missed.
I didn't even think about that, Big D. What happens if one doesn't go in? Now you got a live grenade.
Yes.
Sitting at your feet.
And these idiots run away, and Esperanza goes, what are these clowns that I've gotten myself involved with?
Grant, Stewart, their men, and Esperanza all rendezvous at an airport hangar where a Boeing 747 is waiting for them. as requested. On Hawley's flight, arrogant reporter Richard Thornburg becomes suspicious as to why the plane has not landed. He taps into the cockpit communications and records a transmission from Barnes describing the situation. From the airplane's lavatory, Richard broadcasts the recording live on television, leading to a panic in the airport terminal, which prevents McClane and Carmine from getting to the 747. Hawley subdues Thornburg with a fellow passenger's stun gun.
So, Gene, I know I'm guilty of this. Often I will nitpick and I will start questioning how things can happen. Is this believable? And one of the smartest things Die Hard 2 does, it's almost like I felt like it was aimed directly at me. They choose to talk to the audience and say, hey, listen, I know what's going on is not realistic. This would not happen. Just go with me. Instead of ignoring the ridiculous situations like we just talked about, the 9-for-9 grenades into the window of an airplane, the filmmakers just lean in. They say, hey, listen, just go with it. Go with it. They tackle it head on. McClane complains about the chaos of the airport. It's Christmas Eve. It's the busiest night. That explains why they're not able to shut down the airport. They can't do an investigation. Then McClane can actually go to the body. He can take the fingerprints. He straight up asks the guys on the radio, hey, did you guys not see that explosion on the runway? He's addressing it. He's letting us have that answer. So the moment I started thinking, oh, fuck, nobody heard the gunshots in the baggage area. Boom, the police are there. Oh, how the fuck is nobody closing down this crime scene? It looks like Halloween 2 in Haddonfield, where the reporters are touching a dead body. Oh, okay, it's the busiest night. We can't close it down. They're answering it right there. They're taking away any of the complaints that we have. When they are faxing fingerprints that he took off of a dead body with an ink pad from a rental car place, I'm thinking the fucking resolution of a fax machine, you're not going to be able to do it. McClane immediately says, hey, in case the resolution isn't great, I circled all the swirls in a pen. These little acknowledgments are like, yes, it's a stretch. Just go with it. It's fun. Don't question it. It disarms you. It's showing that, hey, this wouldn't happen, but that's not what the movie's about. So many movies try to just like gloss over it and hand wave this bullshit, address it this way, and we're all on board.
Perhaps, but as a former cadet officer in the AZ 861st, I got to tell you that this entire premise requires us to forget the United States Air Force exists. I kept screaming during this movie, okay, cool, the Army can't solve this. Washington Dulles can't solve this. What about the Air Force at our nation's capital? Okay, the Air Force at its disposal at minutes away. You've got fighters who can provide escorts for these aircraft. You've got communications aircraft who could go up there and broadcast to all these planes. Loads of other resources that easily could be scrambled to Dulles. This is, after all, our nation's capital. And I understand the weather is bad, but if passenger aircraft are up there circling and not wrecking, military aircraft certainly could be up there too, helping out. That's the one part where, although they did address the ridiculous, I wish they could have gone the extra mile and explained why the fuck the Air Force is not helping out.
Yeah, and I think what they could have also done was they give hints where they say, okay, you know, we've contacted 3 or 4 of the airlines by RF transmission, or other ones had seen the telecast on the TV. So they try to show it that there's a couple planes, at least whittle it down. Yeah. Holly's plane and maybe 2 or 3 other. Mm-hmm. And then we see a military escort. And I mean, we know, just going back to September 11th, they didn't issue the order to take down the planes until we had already had like confirmed planes hitting buildings. So here, until it got really, really bad, I don't think they're issuing takedown orders of a civilian plane. I don't think we were at that point yet, Gene. So let's cut this movie a little slack. The dudes were 9 for 9 with grenades. I'm okay with the military not scrambling the old jets just yet.
Well, McClane asks a news crew to fly him via helicopter to intercept the 747. He jumps from the helicopter onto the wing and uses his coat to jam the aileron, preventing the plane from taking off. During a fist fight, McClane kicks Grant into a jet engine. While fighting Stewart, he opens a fuel valve in the engine pylon just as Stewart kicks him off the wing. McClane uses a cigarette lighter to ignite the fuel trail, causing the plane to blow up and killing everyone on board. The fire trail also serves as a landing guide for all airborne aircraft, including Holly's, to land safely.
Okay. And again, I know what I just said. I know exactly what I just said, that I told Gene to just go with it.
Yeah, it's going with it.
Okay, I can hold two different beliefs simultaneously, right? And yes, there's some cognitive dissonance this will cause me, but I can hold these two thoughts. Yes, I will not pay attention to details, but I can also feel that it's a bit too much. Okay, Die Hard, they pack so many action sequences that you thought, what was it you remember, Gene? Was it the snowmobiles, or what was the one part that you remembered that you always thought of?
Oh, the ejection seat.
Okay, you thought of the ejection seat. Gee, that's like one of like 20 or 30. You've got the shootout at the terminal, then you've got the shootout at the skywalk, the communication array explosion. You've got the 747 crashing into the runway. You have the attack on the church. You've got the snowmobile chase. You've got the fight on the wing where Grant goes into the fucking engine. And you know me with my documentaries. I love Airline Disaster, the TV show. Some fucking ice on the wing will take out a turbine engine. An adult man, 250 pounds in full tactical gear, is going to take out the compressor blades. That plane is not going anywhere. But you know what? The movie keeps going. It does not slow down. Each sequence just keeps going higher and higher, higher. The stakes are getting crazier. To by the end, I felt like this was Con Air. At the end, where Con Air, you had a fire truck, you had the strip in Vegas, you had an electrical wire fall, there was like things shorting out, a boat jumping off of a ramp, money from like an armored car. It was ridiculous. You got now McClane, he's out on the wing, he's fighting hand to hand. He somehow falls off and he pulls this conveniently located fuel, like a fuel valve that will now dump the full contents of a 747's wings. It's spraying out. It's going. It makes a nice path. So McClane's laying on the runway after he fell off. He can throw a Zippo. It follows, and the trail of fire from this burning jet fuel actually catches up to a full 747 ready to hit V1 and rotate and take off from the runway, probably going like 120 miles an hour. It blows up. Hey, we've got the runway. Let's land. Let's follow the flames. It was a bit too much. Why not just have that McClane took one of the explosives from the church? He sensed something was up. He left it on the plane or strapped it to the wing. We didn't need all of this. So by the end, I was like, man, one less piece. Give me one less action piece.
Because pilfered explosive wouldn't have given us the runway. He needed the lighted runway for all the stranded aircraft to use. It's a Christmas miracle, Big D.
A giant an exploding 747 full of fuel that would have spilled out onto the runway. Because Holly's plane landing, have you ever seen where they have a large commercial airliner sit on a runway, rev its engines, and the jet wash will blow over cars driving on the road next to it? The first time that Holly's plane lands, it's putting out all the flames for all the planes that are landing. Have a massive explosion, the entire runway is lit up with jet fuel. Then the planes can land. I'd be a little happier. Again, it's a minor complaint.
Well, now's the time of the podcast where we give you our Shat score for Die Hard 2, Die Harder. Our Shat score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie takes to get off your respective butts. 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It is a regular, normal Christmas, eggnog, a fucking Christmas tree, a little turkey, and 5 wipes is an absolute disaster of a movie. It's when you're pissing in someone's pool and you're fresh out of chlorine. Big D, we'll start with you. What is your wipe score for Die Hard 2, Die Harder?
Man, it's hard. I loved this film. I really did. Maybe if I went back and watched the first and then this immediately after, I would look at it differently. But it is nonstop action. It's a fun thrill ride. It doesn't take itself serious. The movie leaned into what worked the first time. and address the ridiculousness of it at the same time. It's over the top. McClane's quips are funny. His resourcefulness, I liked it. He's that everyman action hero, and it's not as tight as the original, Gene. It's not as realistic, and it's not as him covertly sneaking through Nakatomi and trying to figure out what's going on and trying to work with people outside the building. It's a different movie. I mean, Die Hard, he only kills 10 people. It's Gruber, his crew, the one guy, he throws Tony's body off the building and hit Al Carr. That's it. This one, we went to 24 kills. It's a little bit much. Thankfully, next week, Gene, they dial it back to 13 kills. Different film, but I think it was fun. It was so much fun. Nakatomi, you only have 1 or 2 moments that you remember. This, dude. One person could say, I love the snowmobiles. One person could say, I love sneaking out on the runway and almost getting run over by Esperanza's plane. It could be the shootout at the Sky Bridge. This movie had it all. This is a fucking one-wiper for me.
So, Big D, I know you gave the original Die Hard half a wipe and came down a little bit. Similarly, I'm going to go down half a wipe as well. As far as sequels go, Die Hard 2 is exactly what you want to see. It is a bigger, wilder version of the original that remains self-aware and remains clever. But like John said, it is hard to beat the original, and I think that this movie falls just a bit short of that mark for me. So as you shifted down from half a wipe to one wipe, I'm shifting down from one wipe to 1.5 wipes. And with one wipe from you and 1.5 wipes from me, that gives us an average wipe score of 1.25 wipes for Die Hard 2, Die Hard-er.
Gee, with the 1.25 wipes, I'm shocked. I expected to be about 10 films at this range. That now fits into the 89 spot with 4 Weddings and a Funeral and The Road Warrior, slightly better than RoboCop and Breakfast Club, slightly worse than Brewster's Million and Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Wow.
And again, the first Die Hard, what did we give it?
You gave it a half. Roger gave it a half. I gave it 1.
So the overall was 0.67.
Yeah, I mean, 2 divided by 3. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that, I think that's fair. I think, man, you can't doubt it's a fun film. It was a good entry. And so many times do they just fuck up sequels? It was honorable what they did.
Well, John, there you go. I think we love this movie a little bit more than you did. But the good news is we have another Oh, shit. I can't say that.
Why?
I was going to say we have another Die Hard movie coming next week, but then
you can fucking say it. You're going to know what it is from what I'm going to say.
But the good news is we have another Die Hard movie coming next week. Big D, tell us what it is.
God, Gene, I'm worried. I'm worried because next week we get back another fucking kick-ass villain. So that's a positive, but just reading this description where this movie just jumps in, here we get some story that makes me a little worried. Detective John McClane is now divorced, alcoholic, and jobless after getting fired for his reckless behavior and bad attitude. He's called back into action, however, when a cryptic terrorist takes New York City hostage in his lethal game of Simon Says and refuses to speak to anyone but McClane. Teamed up with a street-savvy electrician named Zeus, McClane dashes through the city, trying to stay one step ahead of the murderous plot. Commissioned by Patrick B., came out in 95, and I'm a little worried. Already, this seems like it's taken itself a bit too serious, but it's been years since I've seen it.
I'm just glad that Patrick and John and you, Big D, could come together and schedule this in exactly the way that I wanted to, because this might be the first time in Shat history that I watched essentially in the same month, right? A part 2 and a part 3 of a series and had that continuity. And I got to tell you, I just watched this film tonight, and I've got a lot to say about it. So I can't wait for this one.
Yeah, well, we did watch King Solomon's Mine and that other one back to back.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, so we did that. Yeah, so those back to back. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm a little worried about this one, that it will be as much fun, and I'm eager to see how it holds up.
All right. Well, thank you, John, for commissioning Slapshot and Die Hard 2. And thank you to Patrick for commissioning our upcoming film. Thank you to all the commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. Email us, host@shatpod.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever our fine podcasts can be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. That helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next week for the following movie.
In the hands of a mastermind of terror.
I want to play a game with Lieutenant McClane.
What kind of game?
Simon Says.
The path to revenge leads straight to John McClane.
If we don't do it, this guy says he's going to blow up another public place.
Why me? What has he got to do with me?
I have no idea. He just said it had to be you.
It's nice to be needed.
Simon Says, get to the payphone in Wall Street Station by 10:20, or the number 3 train and its passengers vaporize.
I'm not jumping through hoops for some psycho. That's a white man with white problems. You deal with it. Where the hell are you going, McClane? I know what I'm doing. Not even God knows what you're doing.
This guy wants to pound on you till you crumble.
Are you aiming for these people?
No. Well, maybe that mime.
He wants you to dance to his tune and then kill you.
Oh, dear.
You don't like me because I'm white.
I don't like you because you're going to get me killed.
On May 19th.
This is a bad idea. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a New York police officer. I'm going to ask you to calmly and quietly start moving towards the other end of the car.
When the theater goes dark.
Trust me, guys.
Duck. The roof blows off.
Guy out there setting off bombs. And for some reason, he's very angry with me.
This, as they say, is where the plot thickens.
They knocked over the Federal Reserve.
Bruce Willis, Jeremy Irons, Samuel L. Jackson.
Congratulations, you're still alive.
Yippee-ki-yay, mother. In a John McTiernan film, Die Hard with a Vengeance.
John McClane, NYPD.
Are you all right?
Yes. Laundry day.